Gosta de fazer orgia, essa novinha que tá na Volândia. Gosta de fazer orgia. Você tá em cima da piroca, 24 horas por dia. Você decada por cima da pica.
Hi, in this video session, we are going to talk about a health and development indicator. So largely in a different video session, we have already discussed about mortality indicators, morbidity indicators, utilization indicators, and some of the health status indicators. In this video session, I have actually combined all the bigger indicators like health related indicators, or the bigger well-being indicators, country development indicators, and the country poverty indicators. So all the bigger indicators we will do in this session. We need to talk about health for all indicators, health index of India, physical quality of life index, HDI, what is human development index, what is inequality adjusted human development index, historical index of human development, MPI, multidimensional poverty index, and the global hunger index. Let's have a word about each of them. Frequently asked MCQs. This is a 3 by 5 star MCQ topic for your exam. Let us start with the first easiest one. What do you mean by PQLI? Beta, PQLI stands for first MCQ, that is your topic 1. PQLI stands for Physical Quality of Life Index. It takes into account three things. It takes into account the life expectancy. Life expectancy at age 1 year or at birth. I have remembered it as L1, PQL1. 1 means life expectancy at 1 year of age. It also includes education index in terms of the literacy rate. It basically talks about the effective literacy rate, that is age more than 7 years. And PQLI also takes into account the infant mortality rate. What do you mean by IMR? IMR stands for the infant mortality rate. Infant mortality rate. What is infant? Infant is age less than 1 year. So chances of dying less than age 1 year, that is called as infant mortality rate. And an amalgamation of all this is called as Physical Quality of Life Index. Index is amalgamation of all the indicators together. Next in line we come over to is the Human Development Index. What is the topic number 2? Human Development Index, or the HDI. Beta, the HDI first MCQ, it takes into account some of the dimensions. What are the dimensions it takes into account? First dimension is a healthy life. First dimension it takes into account is healthy life. The second is about the knowledge dimension. Knowledge or the education dimension. And third dimension is about the standard of living. It takes into account the standard of living. Please note that in PQLI, it is a physical quality of life. It is not the standard of life. Quality of life means how happiness it is. So how happy people are. So quality of life will tell you about life expectancy, about the literacy, what is the education level, and how many children would die less than age 1 year. But the HDI, it takes into account the standard of living. For these dimension indicators. So if you look at the indicators for healthy life, what is the indicator? The indicator is life expectancy at birth. Please note this is also different from PQLI. What is PQLI? It is life expectancy at age 1 year, whereas HDI is life expectancy at birth. Just remember this, very important. And knowledge index, they take in knowledge dimension, they take with two indicators. What are the indicators we take? It is the average school years a child will attend in a country. And second is the expected school years the child will be attending in that particular country. So one is average school years in that country and the expected school years. I know it sounds a little bit confusing, but that's how it is. You need to remember that the knowledge isn't taken in two terms, average school years and the expected school years. And the standard of living, it is measured using a GNI per capita. What do you mean by GNI per capita? GNI per capita stands for the gross national income. All the nationals in a country, what is their earning? So total, it could include the agriculture earning, mineral earning, gold earning, business earning, and the foreign income earning. Everything is included. That is what is GNI per capita. So this is what is HDI. Please note HDI takes into account dimensions, 3 dimensions and 4 indicators. That was your question number 1. Next MCQ is for every dimension there is a particular indicator. So what do we do with these indicators is we calculate the dimension index. In HDI, we calculate the dimension index. So how do you find out the dimension index? See beta, in every indicator for every country, there might be some average school years, expected school years, something. So for the UNDP, that is the United Nations Development Program, they have fixed the minimum value and they have fixed the maximum value for every country. They have fixed it. So if you just look at this HDI, there is a minimum value for the indicator and there is a maximum value for the indicator, right? And then the country's observed value will be there. So if you take the minimum value and the maximum value, that will help you to form the dimension index. So please note, this can be asked in your exam that for life expectancy, the UNDP, United Nations Development Program, they have fixed the life expectancy minimum value as 20 years, the maximum value as 85 years. For the income, GNI per capita, gross national income per capita, the lowest value is fixed at 100 and it is 75,000 US dollars per capita per year. So it is based on what? This can also be asked that the minimum and the maximum value will keep on changing. So currently the UNDP, they have fixed based on the 2017 estimates. So this can be asked. Schooling, I don't think anybody will ask you, but if you can remember, you should remember. For India, these are the values. Of course, it is not required for you to remember these values. So we calculate the dimension index. How do you calculate the dimension index now? It is the actual value of that country minus the minimum value divided by the maximum minus minimum. So what I understand is that the maximum minus minimum is always a fixed value. So the denominator is fixed. What is changing for every country is the numerator. And therefore, you can calculate the dimension index. So that is what do you mean by the dimension index? It is the formula is the actual value or the observed value for a country minus the minimum value divided by the maximum value minus the minimum value will give you the dimension index. So what do you do with the dimension index? So you calculate the dimension index for healthy life, you calculate the dimension index for knowledge, you calculate the dimension index for standard of living. So what do we do with this dimension indices? We calculate the geometric mean. Question number 3, HDI is a geometric mean. It is a geometric mean of all dimensions. How do you calculate of all the dimension indices? How do you calculate the dimension indices? You just now learned. So please note, this can be MCQ for you, that what is the maximum minimum value. This can be MCQ that how do you calculate the dimension index. This can be MCQ that in the dimension index, what do you do? It is a geometric mean. A lot of MCQs come on HDI. Point number 4, that is for country India. For country India, what is the HDI? The HDI for country India is 0.64. India is standing at a rank of 131 as per the 2021 UNDP reports. This may change probably by the time you might be watching this video. This could have been changed, but that's how it is, that every time the data changes, every time my classes also change, the numbers also I have to memorize. But for the HDI, you remember that 2021, the HDI index that we have for India is 0.64 and the rank is 131. If you would like, you can remember the life expectancy. It's important. It is 69.7 years for India. Now, based on this, let us move ahead and talk about the topic number 3, that what do you mean by the inequality adjusted human development index? Please note that what is important for your exam is the PQLI and the funda of HDI, what is very important. What is this inequality adjusted human development index? Please note that in every country there has to be some inequalities. Let us say if I talk about the Indian HDI again, if you look at the Indian HDI, what is the GNI? That is 6,681. Let us take, for example, I am taking $7,000 is the GNI for India. So that was some time back in 2017. Just I'm taking an example. So GNI in terms of dollars is $7,000. Now, there may be inequality that there may be a person who's earning 2,000 and there may be a person who's earning maybe 21,000. So the average would come around 7,000. There could also be that a person is earning $200 and a person is earning $50,000. So the inequalities could be there. There could also be some areas where average person will be earning $6,000 to $9,000. Are you getting it? So the inequalities could be there. The rich may be very richer, the poor may be very poor. The average GNI would still be the same. Or there could be that everybody is earning 7,000 US dollars. Are you able to understand what do you mean by inequalities? There could be income inequalities. There could be gender inequalities. There could be rural urban inequalities. So once you are adjusting this in the Human Development Index, it is a better indicator than HDI. Just understand that IHDI, that is the inequality adjusted in Human Development Index, is a better indicator than HDI. It is kind of a better indicator. That's all that you need. Next in line is, what do you mean by topic number 4? What is the historical index of human development? This is different from Human Development Index. It is HIHD, that is the historical index for human development, HIHD. So see beta, what is HIHD? You already know that in HDI, what do we account for? In HDI, I told you that we account for the life expectancy at birth. You see the average school years, the expected mean school years, and you see the GNI per capita. In HIHD, you see the same 3 dimensions. You talk about the survival or the healthy life dimensions. It talks about the knowledge dimensions. And it talks about the income dimensions. The dimensions are actually the same. Okay. So what is different in this is the indicators. So in indicator in HIHD for healthy life, it is the same life expectancy at birth, but the knowledge indicators, they are different. So we are talking about the gross enrollment rates, and we will talk about the adult literacy rates. Adult literacy, 15 years more, right? Adult literacy rate. And instead of GNI per capita, we will talk about the GDP per capita. What do you mean by the GDP? GDP stands for gross domestic product. It stands for a gross domestic product, which is the total domestic income only, excluding the foreign national incomes. So HIHD is a kind of a historical index. It tells you that how the country is developed over time. So it also accounts for some of the inequalities, but it is a slightly different indicator than the HDI, but still using the same concept. If you look at the HIHD of various countries over since last like 1800 onwards, you can see that the HIHD for different countries have increased based on the GDP per capita. So the countries which are more towards the right side, they are kind of more developed. Do you know that Norway, if you see the small country over there, I know it's a very small screen for you. I'm sorry for that. But I'm just writing it over here that do you know that the Norway has the highest? It has the highest. We shouldn't say the highest. It should be the maximum. HDI is there for Norway. It is known as the most developed country in the world. So after Norway, you have Switzerland, and then you have some other superpowers, super countries of the world, where you have high life expectancy, you have very high national incomes, and you have very high domestic products income also. So that actually depends upon how the country would have changed over time. So that is what is historical index of the human development, HIHD, which is slightly different from the HDI. The next is point number 5. What do you mean by the MPI? Now that's still more confusing. What do you mean by the multidimensional poverty index? Beta, in case you are confused, don't worry. In the last, I will give you a single summary table. But to reach that summary table, you have to go through this 30 minutes of understanding. So what do you mean by the multidimensional poverty index? So you remember that HDI, it was talking about life expectancy at birth. It was talking about the school years. And it was talking about the GNI per capita. GNI per capita. So now this is a poverty index. It will be exactly ulta. It will be exactly opposite of what is a development. HDI is a development index. What is opposite of development? It is poverty. So this one will talk about life expectancy at birth. Poverty index will talk about chances of not surviving. Or it will talk about the death rates or the mortality rates in the country. Mortality rates, which would include the under 16 year age group children. So under 15 years, how many children die? Under 18 years, without becoming adult, how many people will die? Without becoming under 5 also, how many people will die? So you will have different rates. Then is school. Development will talk about how many children you are educating in your country. Poverty will talk about how many people are illiterate in your country. Common sense. So school dropout rates or the illiteracy rates. How many illiteracy rates or how many people could actually not complete 6th class or 8th class in the country? That is what is poverty index. How many children who have not even educated till 6th class? That will tell you how poor the country is. And the GNI, HDI, development will talk about how much money I have, how good house we have, what is the good quality phone you have, or what are the good quality clothes you are wearing. So that will be the standard of living. Poverty index will talk about how many people do not have toilet in their home, how many people do not have water in their home, how many people are malnourished in the country. So it will talk about poverty rates. What do you mean by poverty rates? How many people have no water, no sanitation? So just remember that this is what is a multidimensional. This is the concept of the multidimensional. I'm going to show you some of the indicators. It is not required for your exam. I'm just telling you the concept. So in multidimensional poverty index, they take into account the poverty. MCQ number 1 in MPI is how many indicators do we account for? Beta, there are 10 indicators. It is not required for your exam that what are the indicators. Just to show you the multidimensional poverty index, these are the 10 indicators. We take into account the standard of living, education, that is the knowledge, and the health. So health is taken in terms of number of people who don't even survive to adulthood. So before 18 years, how many people are dying? That is how poor the country will be. So undernourishment rates, these are all health indicators. Then you have number of people who don't even study 6th grade or number of people who don't even study 8th class. These are two different indicators we take in the poverty index. Then you take into account how many people are using cow dung in their houses or no sanitation, no water, electricity, kacha house, number of people who don't even have TV, computers. So these are the 10 indicators. You don't need to bang your head on remembering these 10 indicators. Just remember poverty will take into account the 10 indicators. It talks about the poverty index. So what we use is a MPI, multidimensional poverty index. That is only one question. Question number 2. The multidimensional poverty index MPI is highest for which state in India? In India, this has been coming in a lot of news also. The state of Bihar, it is known to have the highest MPI. The maximum MPI is for the state of Bihar, that is 51.9. That is the source for this is the Niti Aayog, that is the think tank of our India. So we are thankful for providing this data to our population so that better policies and better budgeting system can happen for the citizens of the country. So highest MPI, please note, is for the state of Bihar. You can see how MPI changes. You can see the green shaded areas which are having a kind of a lower poverty index, and you have the center part of India which is technically having the highest level of the poverty indices in India. And if you remember my lecture in epidemiology where we talked about the location of undernutrition, it was actually based on the MPIs in our country. So now just to diagrammatically represent to you, of course I have done that before, but that was in the writing form. Now you see it diagrammatically that what do you mean by the inequality adjusted human development index. It takes into account the inequality adjusted life index, inequality adjusted in education, inequality adjusted income. It takes into account the same GNI per capita, expected school years, mean school years, and the life expectancy at birth. Next, we talked about the multidimensional poverty index, which takes into account the health, education, and the standard of living. It is just a diagrammatic representation of your MPI and inequality adjusted human development index. Next is point number 6. What do you mean by the global hunger index, GHI? It has been asked a lot of times in your exam. Beta, please mark, there is a 3 by 5 star MCQ topic. What do you mean by global hunger index? It is similar. It's a big daddy of the poverty index. In global hunger index, we take into account 3 dimensions. We take into account the 3 dimensions. We take into account is the child mortality rate. The second dimension we take into account is the child undernutrition rate. And the third dimension we take into account is the inadequate food supply. So there are the 3 dimensions. For these 3 dimensions, you have again same problem, 4 indicators. So what are the 4 indicators? If you just have a look at the 4 indicators. The 4 indicators for child mortality, we take into account the under 5 mortality rate. For child undernutrition, you have two things. What is undernutrition? Do you remember from my lecture in malnutrition, I think, and in child problems, where we discussed that undernutrition general marker is weight for age, and then you can divide it into acute malnutrition or chronic malnutrition. Acute malnutrition is what is wasting, and chronic malnutrition is what is stunting. So child undernutrition can be measured in terms of the number of children who are having wasting or number of children who are having stunting. So these are the two indicators. The inadequate food supply is measured in terms of how many number of people are having no food supply. So that is in terms of the undernourishment rates. So these are your 4 indicators. You take into account the under 5 mortality. Next is point number 6. What do you mean by the global hunger index? Beta, in the recent years, this has been the talk of the town. A lot of questions coming from global hunger index, GHI, global hunger index. What do you mean by the global hunger index? In the global hunger index, again, that same issue, you have some dimensions. And to adhere to these dimensions, you have some of the indicators, right? So there are 3 dimensions and there are 4 indicators. If you just look at the dimensions, we are going to talk about the child mortality in global hunger index. Second in line, we take into account the child undernutrition, and third is the inadequate food supply. The child mortality, the indicators that we use are for child mortality, you use the under 5 mortality rate, that is the U5MR. And for child undernutrition, if you have watched the malnutrition indicators and the malnutrition markers or the child health problems video session, we must have discussed that the general marker for undernutrition, that is weight for age. Once the weight for age or the undernutrition is there, then we can define whether it is acute malnutrition or chronic malnutrition. Acute malnutrition was given by wasting and the chronic malnutrition was given by stunting. So that is what we measure in the global hunger index also. We measure the wasting rates and the stunting rates. They both are indicative of the child undernutrition. And then the number of people who cannot afford some food because of the poverty, that is the inadequate food supply, that is measured by the undernourishment rates. This is in adults, undernourishment rates in adults, right? So these are the indicators. How many indicators we see? We see 4 indicators. So that is your first MCQ, that how many dimensions are there and how many indicators are there. Once you are done with this, you can see that in this circle, we are talking about the dimension for the child mortality, dimension for the inadequate food supply, and a dimension for the child undernutrition. Based on these dimensions inside, I don't know if you can read it, there will be indicators. The child mortality by the under 5 indicator, then you have the stunting, the wasting, and the undernourishment. Now, can you see these numbers over here? These numbers indicate what? These numbers indicate the weightage for these things. So the wasting and the stunting rates, only point I want to say is about the weight. What is the weightage for this? The wasting rate is taken as 1/6 and the stunting rate is taken as 1/6. Together they are taken as 1/3. So 1/3 weight will be given to the under 5. 1/3 is given to the undernutrition and 1/3 weight is given to the inadequate food supply. All 3 are in equal proportion. So is it a geometric mean? Answer is no, it is a simple arithmetic mean, which is different from the HDI. Do you remember for HDI, we talked about this, that HDI is what? It is a geometric mean. So that is what differentiates that. In GHI, what is global hunger index? You can see that the global hunger index is a simple arithmetic mean. It is a simple arithmetic mean. Human Development Index is a geometric index and the global hunger index is a arithmetic mean of all 4 indicators or 3 dimensions. So what are the 4 indicators? One is given 1/3. One is given 1/3, and the second, the middle one, that is the child undernutrition, it is given 1/6 for wasting and 1/6 for stunting. That is the only 2 points. And last point, if you just want to see the global hunger index for India, you can see that the global hunger index for India, the score is 27.3, where the country India falls in a serious level of hunger. Serious level of hunger. And in fact, the people from Government of India, they in fact refuted that probably this data does not match our data. But all said and done, for your exams, you need to remember that the Global Hunger Index score for India is 27.5, that is 27.5, and the Global Hunger Index score is calculated as an arithmetic mean of the undernutrition, inadequate food supply, and the child mortality indices. The next is point number 7. Some of the other indicators, they are very low yield. It is very less chance that they may be asked in your exam because you have already covered the 6 super indicators about the Global Hunger Index, HDIs, IHDI, historical developments. So now I'm just telling you 2 more indicators just to complete that whole package of understanding about the development indicators. Beta, you should know what is a health for all indicator. It is a WHO indicator. That is the HFA indicator, and you have a Niti Aayog indicator. These are bigger indicators. These are for the country and for the global indicators. So the Niti Aayog indicator, common sense, it's for Indian indicator. It is called as the Health Index of India. So if I just show you the, nothing to remember, no MCQ on this, just you should know the names. The HFA indicator, it is a WHO indicator, Health for All indicator. The Health for All indicator, it has 4 basic dimensions. It takes into account the health policies in the country. Within this, there are many indicators. You do not need to bang your head into this. Just remember, if you want to, that how many indicators are there in Health for All indicators. Health for All dimensions, like what are the dimensions? You talk about the health policy. You talk about the socio-economic indicator of that country. You talk about the health services in that country, and then you talk about the health status indicators. So all these combined will give you the Health for All indicators. That's all. So if you just want to have a look at that, what are the indicators inside them, it is not required. But you can see that the health policy will be dependent on the resource allocation, degree of equity distribution, community involvement. If you talk about the socio-economic indicators, that will talk about the GNP or the GDP, adult literacy rate, housing, food availability, and so on. Indicators for the provision of healthcare, like how many people have the availability of healthcare, accessibility, utilization, and quality of care. And if you talk about lastly the health status indicators, that will be dependent on what is the outcome indicators. These are the outcome indicators. That is what the country, that is what the community medicine, that is what the public health system is doing. So that is about the infant mortality rate, child mortality rate, life expectancy rates, disability, and so on. So these are your Health for All indicators. Just remember, these are the WHO indicators based on which they will categorize different countries are in what level of development. HFA indicators. The government of India, the Niti Aayog, the senior people in Niti Aayog, they are the think tank of our country. Niti Aayog people working with Niti Aayog, they devised a new indicator, that is the Health Index of India. In this, all the states, because India is a big country, you need to give budget to the state, you need to take care that how the states are doing. So they have a Health Index of India. Every state will calculate a HII, that is the Health Index of India, HII. So this Health Index of India is based on 3 parameters. It is based on the health outcomes, it is based on the governance, and it is based on the key inputs. The health outcomes is given 70% weightage. 70% weightage is given to the health outcomes. Governance is only 12% and key inputs is 18%. What do you mean by key inputs? These are the service delivery indicators. That is how many FRUs we have, how many CHCs we have, how many PHCs we have, and so on. Governance indicators means how many CMOs are there available, how many district TB officers are there, how many senior officials are taking care of the health system of our country. That is the governance and information indicators. Health outcome is measured, that same answer. Health outcome in infant mortality rate, how many ENCs we did, how many PNCs we did, how many institutional deliveries, number of people taking, all the NFHS 5 indicators. So that is what is the Health Index of India. So these are just 2-3 indicators for you to know. So with that, I think we have covered all the topics about all the development indicators that we have in India. It is, beta, please note, it is a 3 by 5 star MCQ topic. You should know what is PQLI, HDIs, Historical Index of Human Development, Inequality Adjusted Human Development, Multi-Poverty Index, and Global Multidimensional Poverty Index, and the Global Hunger Indices. Just to summarize, before you leave, just to summarize everything, I have prepared this beautiful table for you. So the PQLI, HDI, HIHD, the multidimensional, and the Global Hunger Index all in the together in one screen for you. This takes at least many years of understanding to prepare this table and many hours of learning to understand this table. So this table, you can just copy it and keep it safe with you. All the very best. Thank you so much for watching this module. Take care and bye.
Hi guys, please subscribe my channels.